Welcome to Voices of Impact, a show where dreams meet action and change makers unite. We are your co-hosts, Brad and Kathy Lambert of KBL Impact Partners. You can find us locally in your city on My Genre Radio FM, Monday through Fridays at 2 p.m. Central. Also, we are televised on Valuable Television Network at 4 p.m. Central and Urban Core Television at 3 p.m. Central. You can find all 100 plus stations on A2 Media under radio and television tabs.
We are so excited to be with you today, and our special guest is Betsy Reznicek. Betsy founded Home Sweet Home upon realizing the great need for a community furniture bank so that families overcoming difficult circumstances can fill their homes with the furniture and household items that everyone needs. Her passion for this work has propelled the agency's growth from an all-volunteer organization to now having a team of staff members along with a dedicated board of directors. 9 years later, her commitment to Home Sweet Home is absolutely unwavering. Prior to Home Sweet Home, Betsy has a decade of development, fundraising, community outreach, and leadership experience. And all she really wanted to do was to teach high school history. In her free time, the single mom of two and is a voracious reader, loves coordinating a group of women in camping, hiking, and adventure trips all over the country. When we come back, we will be joined by Betsy Reznicek.
Betsy, we are so excited to have you today. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Finally, right?
Finally,
We've
yes.
been trying for months.
Yes.
So let's start with the mission and vision of Home Sweet Home. Tell us about it.
Yes, our mission is to give people dignity and pride in their lives, and we do that through furniture. So we are a furniture bank. Our goal and our vision is to provide everybody in the St. Louis region with a bed and household items, but also sustainability, keeping items out of the landfill, and being a leader among other furniture banks around the country.
Fantastic. So what inspired you to start Home Sweet Home?
Yeah, so the short version is I had worked at two different organizations, and one did not have anything like this for their families. So I remember very specifically that a case manager was trying to find a bed, I'm trying to find a couch, and we realized like neither of us own a truck, so how do we get this furniture anywhere? The next organization actually already did this. They called it Furnishing Hope. They did it for their ladies who are moving out, so about every 6 weeks, somebody would get to go to this local church basement and pick out stuff. And we would always have other agencies that were always asking, how do we get access to that furniture? But that was not our mission. We did not have that much furniture.
Right.
So I just kind of haphazardly said one day, it's like somebody needs to do this furniture, but for everybody. And a friend and I looked at each other and said, well, that seems like a doable thing. And so then we researched it. A furniture bank is a concept. There are more than 60 of them in North America. And while there's small ones here that, do kind of distribute furniture a little bit here and there in the St. Louis area, there wasn't one that kind of works with a big conglomerate of organizations to provide this resource. Now, the longer version is I had a very good job that I loved, and I had health insurance, and so I never run anything, and I never run anything and started anything.
Yeah.
So like, why would I do that?
Right.
And then the agency closed.
Oh.
And we're all out of a job, and everybody's like, you should do that furniture thing. And I was like, you're cute.
Yeah.
I need health insurance.
You're
I've never
cute.
run anything. But ultimately, I ended up writing a business plan and forming a board of directors in
Off you went.
2015.
2015. So
Yeah.
here we are 10 years
10
later.
years later. Yeah.
Oh
That's
my
amazing,
goodness.
Betsy.
So sometimes doors open for you that you don't even want them to open.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. But you took the step,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You took the step. That's amazing.
So I don't think I've ever heard the term furniture poverty before.
No, I haven't either.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so I think that what we have learned is that why we make and understand that if a family is coming out of homelessness, that they are starting over from scratch. They're put into an apartment. It makes sense that they don't have the resources to immediately go out and buy a whole household furniture.
Right.
But what we did not realize when we started Home Sweet Home is the vast number of families in our region that simply live in poverty and have generational poverty in a way that they can't afford these resources
Right.
over the scope of decades. So many families are barely making by. And it's obvious if a kid comes to school and they don't have a coat on, or they don't have lunch with them, or they can't afford the backpack. But it's not so obvious of what's behind those closed doors at home. Right. And so families are making do with living without dressers, without kitchen tables, without pots and pans to cook the food in from the food bank. Right. And so the concept of not having those basic necessities at home that you need in order to get a full night's sleep, feel like you can function, be an active part of society in a way that really makes you feel like you are a whole human being
Right.
is what we call addressing furniture
Yeah.
poverty.
Wow, that's fantastic. How do you source furniture and what happens when it gets to the door?
Yeah, so the beautiful part is that it's a community driven adventure, right? So 99% of the furniture that comes to us comes from individuals in the community, which is
Yeah.
great. So it comes donated from folks like you that have an extra bed, or a church group that wants to donate a bunch of pillows, or a corporate group that says, we want to build dressers. So most of it is community driven. We do get some furniture from universities, or, like kind of bigger
Yeah,
entities
random
like that.
things.
Yeah. But for the most part, it's individuals that have said, like, I can donate this part so that others can have it, which I really love
I
that
do
aspect
too.
of it.
I love that. So how does this all work? So you work, I'm sure, with other organizations.
Correct.
So how is that process?
Yeah, so it's a big circle process of first we have to get the donations to us. So individuals donate it, we pick it up. In our region here, we have 2 counties that we pick up from. We bring it back to a big warehouse. We have a full staff that picks up the furniture, that coordinates the picking up of
I mean,
the
this
furniture.
is a huge process.
It is a huge process. So we have about 20 staff, and overall we have more than 800 volunteers. So it is like a massive enterprise, and warehouse and trucks to facilitate all this. So once that furniture comes back, it all then has to be sorted, make sure that it's clean. We're really unique in that we won't take just anything. We go back to that dignity aspect
just
for
gonna
our families.
say, that's right.
So we are really picky on it. Can't have any rips, stains, holes, right? We want it to be able to give those families dignity. So it gets sorted, cleaned, and put into our warehouse. And then those agencies, so we have about 60 organizations that make referrals to us.
60.
60.
Yes.
Wow.
Now, that being said, there's 60 that we work with. There are more than 100 on a wait list in 4 additional counties. So the need is great.
So what counties? What counties?
We're
do you
working in St. Louis
work in?
City and St. Louis County.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you haven't expanded out
Not yet. Yeah.
past that yet.
Yeah. So that's a whole different topic of like, how do you do that in a way that like either you gotta like go whole hog or
We'll
like
get
not.
there.
You're
Yeah, yeah.
basically
we'll
the
get-
only game in town that does this on the level
On
you
this
do it.
level, yeah.
Yeah.
So those agencies we partner with really, really intentionally. The interesting thing is that they don't have to be homeless service providers, right? So
Right.
about half of the agencies that we work with are. The other half, poverty spans all
Right.
types of demographics and organizations. So it could be a local school district, it could be a children's oncology clinic, it could be a place that helps kids with visual impairments, right? So they make those referrals to us, and then the really cool part is the families get to come and they get to pick out their furniture. So they
love
get an
that.
appointment to shop.
Yes.
They get to say, I like that couch, not that one, and then our team will deliver it to them the next day. And then we just do that all the time,
So
every day.
Beautiful.
So the agency contacts you with a referral family, and then you schedule a time for them to come over and
Yep.
go
Yep.
through what they need.
They take about an hour to get to pick out everything
Yes.
from the couch, a kitchen table, a dresser, to small things, right? Like
Yeah.
pots and pans
And
and lamps
dishes.
and dishes
Yes.
and wall art, right? So the things that really pull your house together and make it a home. And then And this makes us unique among other furniture banks because not everybody does this last part. We deliver it to those families inside their door. We don't drop it off on the curb. We take it inside. We set it up.
So you deliver.
We deliver. So
everything.
many of our families are single moms,
Right.
older veterans, right? They don't have
Well,
that
they don't have
capacity.
transportation,
They don't
many
have
of them.
transportation. They don't have a way to carry that furniture up 3 flights of a South City apartment, right? So we provide all that aspect, and that's part of the dignity piece for us,
Yeah.
right? It's not just the furniture,
Absolutely.
it's the experience.
It's
Now,
yes.
you get a lot of new things donated
We
from
do.
stores and other places, which is a bonus, I'm sure.
Yeah, we get some. We would like to get more clients. I always love it when there's a new option out
Right.
there. But there's also a wealth of perfectly great donated stuff out there.
sure.
Well,
and they
yes.
get to pick out. So it's always really interesting to see what they pick out, like a mix of like older couches with like a newer chair, right? And like really mix it up, and then you can see it at the end, and it's all come together.
Yeah.
It does, just kind of like a little miracle, right? How it all comes. I know when you and I were there and we toured Home Sweet Home at your other location, that I was so impressed with how everything was displayed.
Yep.
And just the process and what you said of dignity and offering dignity to families and individuals, I think is so key.
Yeah, we really like it. So that means we're testing every lamp, right?
Sure.
We're looking at every linen.
I
So
love
for
that,
us, if we
testing every lamp.
pick up a lamp that doesn't work, we take it back. It's kind of a pain, but we can take it back to Target, right?
Sure.
But for our families, if they get a lamp that doesn't work, that's like one more piece of their life that did not work,
Yes.
and that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yes.
Good point. Good point. And we saw volunteers in there with hammers and screwdrivers and
Yes.
saws putting things
So
together.
many volunteers, yes. So all of the shopping is done with volunteers. All of the packing, sorting, cleaning, labeling, etc., is done with volunteers.
That's
And you have over 800 volunteers.
We have about 150 regular volunteers, and then the rest of those volunteers all comes from faith groups, schools, universities, corporations, etc. So they come to build dressers and do other volunteer activities.
This is amazing.
okay. We are now going to pause for a break, and this is Voices of Impact, and we'll be back with Betsy Reznicek of Home Sweet Home in just a moment.
Join our Frame Up for Funding program, the 12-week accelerator by KBL Impact Partners. This proven program has helped nonprofits raise millions of new dollars by mastering donor engagement, board development, and funded programs. With only 10 organizations per cohort, you'll get personalized coaching and a clear, achievable funding roadmap to drive success. If you're ready for an explosive 2025, please schedule a meeting with us through our website at kblimpactpartners.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Welcome to Voices of Impact, and our guest today is Betsy Reznicek.
So, Betsy, what are some of the challenges of running a furniture bank?
Ooh, so many challenges. I would say we always describe it as a 3-legged stool, and those 3 legs are how you grow an art organization or a furniture bank, right? And so one of those legs is resources, having enough staff and trucks and the proper size building to facilitate the organization. 2 is making sure that your referrals are coming in. During COVID, we saw a decrease of referrals. Depending
Sure.
on the time of year, we see an increase of them. And then having enough furniture. But making sure all those 3 things together are growing or not, or intentionally not growing at the same time is the biggest challenge. I didn't realize we were starting like a logistics company, essentially,
It
right?
is.
Because
Which is really what you have.
yeah, so if somebody called us and said, we have 1,000 dressers, we want to bring you right this second, I would have nowhere to put them because that leg would get really long on furniture real fast
Right.
and the stool would fall over, right? So same with referrals. If we got an influx of referrals, that's why I can't take all the agencies that want to partner with us, is because that leg would be too long on that stool. It would fall over and nobody would be getting services very quickly. So trying to figure out how to grow those 3 legs at the same time with a mission that is like literally big, right? Like couches are big, trucks are big, the building is big, it's all expensive.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just getting diapers or foods where you're like, things are little and cute and you can like toss it to one another, right? So trying to grow all that at the same time is the biggest challenge from a board. So we're always having that conversation of this three-legged stool and how do we get it to grow, because the need is great, but also we want to be sustainable as an organization.
Right.
But also you can't just grow one thing at a time.
So how do you do that?
Oh, we're still figuring it out, right?
You
Like
know,
it's
like-
a constant conversation. We actually had a board meeting last night, and it's still trying to figure out like what comes first: the chicken, the egg, the truck, the movers, the
Right.
volunteers, the staff, the stuff. If somebody said, "Here's $5 million, go buy 5 more trucks and start operating in Illinois," like that's great, except for that I don't think I'd have enough furniture. Sure, I'd have partner agencies.
still got the
I'd
three-legged
still have
stool.
to hire 15
Right.
staff, like
Yeah.
movers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So try it. We don't know. We've kind of figured it out every day
Yeah.
and hope those legs grow a little bit at a time
Yeah.
on their own, but also talking to those about those challenges with donors
Right.
and stakeholders, because I think if they understand the why behind things, then it's easier. If that stool starts to fall over, you've explained the why
Right.
behind things. So
Right.
transparency and why things are happening is really important.
So is that then, really like when you're looking at expanding? Mm-hmm. And so what would be a perfect scenario? I guess all the legs on your stool would be balanced in order to move.
Correct, but that happens almost never.
Right.
Right.
So how do you take that risk? Or do you take that risk?
Sometimes you do just have to take that risk, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
as
That's
we've grown
exactly
over the
right.
years, we've balanced it both ways. So there's been times, especially at the very beginning when we were very, very new, where the board said,
Yeah.
if you want to move into a new building, you have to raise this amount of money first.
Right.
If you want to get a new truck, you have to raise this amount of money first, right? And at that time, it was like $100,000 or $50,000, right? Other times, then that makes sense and it's doable. It's an easy sell
Yeah.
from
Sure.
a fundraising perspective. Other times, the board is willing to say, okay, let's just put it in the budget and we're going to make it happen, right? And you don't necessarily, I mean,
don't
you have a
know.
plan, you have donors, and you work
Right.
towards that goal, and you kind of keep putting it out there
That's
and
right.
working, but you're still taking that risk, right?
Right.
So we moved into this new building. It's a 5-year lease. It is $250,000 a year
Yeah.
that we
Right.
don't have that money in advance, right?
Right.
So it's not like a capital campaign. So sometimes you just have to take that risk.
Right.
But it's also, the board once said, it's like, oh, you're like magic. I'm like, no, it's like really hard work.
It
Yeah.
is
And,
hard
and,
work.
and we're putting forth the effort, and we're doing the fundraising
Mm-hmm.
right, and we're including the donors and the stakeholders. So,
They're not there from 9 to 5 every day to see
Right.
what you guys are really
Right.
doing.
right, exactly,
to
yeah.
Make it happen.
And I think that you reach that point, exactly what you said, that
Yeah.
you take that risk and it's a calculated risk,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And so you're all bought into that.
Correct.
And it does, and it comes, I mean, it all works out.
Yeah, it has so
It
far,
does.
right? Yes, and I've never run a for-profit business, but I would also assume that it's the same. There are times you make
It is the same.
calculated risks, and there are times where you
Right.
plan and you save, and then you go buy the truck or
Right.
whatever, right? And you just have to balance those out as you grow and you feel out your needs and your resources and your expectations and your staff. Like, there's lots of factors.
Right. Well, and I just listening to you and thinking about how you started, and like you said, you hadn't done anything like this before.
I never,
You-
yes.
Right. And so seeing now where you are, and your budget is,
$3 million.
and you're 10 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. One time, maybe in year like 4 or 5, maybe 6, or I don't know, a board member said like, well, we've never done that before. We can't do that. And I was like, surprised. We've never done any of this before. Right? Like, none of it from the very beginning is anything any of us have ever
Every
done
day.
before. Every single day, we're doing
Yeah.
something we haven't done before. So, it's also really interesting to practice that, like, I can't remember what the part of the brain is that's like risk
Yeah,
taking.
right.
And you almost, if you study psychology, they say you have to practice the risk taking, right?
Yeah.
If you're afraid of like heights, you like walk to the edge so you can maybe go back and you
Right.
like walk a little closer, right? well, don't tell my board, but like I do that with them,
Well,
right? So
absolutely.
we will
love it.
have a little bit of risk just to get them used to
Right.
that feeling of uncomfortableness and like, look, oh, it's okay,
It's
right?
all right.
And then we like go a little bit closer, right? And then you
Right.
can like lead them to like
Right.
better, bigger things in a way that it doesn't seem so scary.
I
And where
love it.
where does that $3 million come from? How do you raise money?
So I don't know.
I mean, grants.
It comes
Fundraisers.
mostly from individuals.
Okay.
I will say $1 million
I
of that is
love
in
hearing
kind.
that.
So
Good for
a
you.
million
Okay.
is in kind donations. So
Okay.
that's the furniture and the household items. So, but then 2 million of that, more than 65% comes from individuals. I have been very lucky that this is a very volunteer heavy organization. And they always
Amazing.
say that volunteers should be your best donors. And I've never worked at a
Yes.
place that could have this many volunteers that they could literally get their hands on things.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And so when they have helped a family shop and experience or delivered to their
Yeah.
home, it's hard for them to say like, oh no, I don't think this is a worthy cause. Right. So it's very easy to get buy-in. We also pick up donations, and if we go into your home for a pickup, we charge $35. But everybody gets put into the database,
Right.
So for every pickup that you're doing, there's 50 to 60 people every week that immediately you need to figure out how to make your friends
I was
as
just
an
going to ask you,
organization.
Yes.
do your furniture donors become financial donors?
I mean, that's the goal,
I mean, I
right?
would
Sure.
think they
Yes.
would.
So that's where the education piece comes in. So many people donate to us, but they don't really understand. They'll say like, "What do you do with my couch again?" Right? Because they just Googled where to donate
Yeah.
furniture, which is fine. That's our job to teach them what does your furniture go to,
Yeah.
what is the impact that it's making. So that's where real fundraising comes in.
Yeah.
But that's the goal, is to turn them. But we also have grants. We also have corporate support. We have a few events, but most of it's individuals, and that's our kind of sweet spot.
I love your journey,
Yeah.
and I would love to hear, and I'm sure our audience would love to hear also, like some of your challenges and how you overcame them over these years.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, so many people are working in the nonprofit world. Sometimes they think, oh, you get to do, I would hear this all the time. Oh, it was so nice that you get to do your passion every day.
Yeah, my passion is not old furniture. I'm actually colorblind. I really don't like furniture. So it's big challenges. So as you know, running an organization for a long time,
Yeah.
luckily you guys were partners in it, but it is mentally exhausting.
Yes, it
Right?
is.
So the biggest challenge that I personally have faced is that after about 7 years, my brain went kaput, right? We had COVID, we had starting an agency,
Right.
building an agency, and then COVID hit. We actually doubled in size during COVID, right?
Yeah.
A lot of agencies did grow to meet the need. And so then I ended up hitting a point where I had to take a sabbatical or a leave of absence to take a break
Good.
because I could not
Self-care.
function anymore.
You needed it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, with that, we are going to pause and take a short break. We are Voices of Impact, and we will be back with our guest, Betsy Reznicek.
Hey, nonprofit leaders, Brad and I know that your time is valuable, and so is the work that you do. That's why we've created mini courses for nonprofit organizations that get straight to the point.
That's right. Each of our mini courses takes 30 minutes or less and dives into topics like building your budget, creating a fund development plan, writing successful grant applications, and having meaningful donor conversations. Perfect for busy leaders who want real results fast.
So head over to kblimpactpartners.com to learn more.
Start making a bigger impact and raising more money today. Welcome back to Voices of Impact, and our guest today is Betsy Reznicek.
And Betsy, right before the break, we were talking about like some of the challenges over the years of these 10 years
Yeah.
of running a nonprofit and how you started with nothing and now today you have a $3 million budget. And so what are some of you talked about the challenges with COVID and some of the burnout, and what all So what other challenges, or how did you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, so the burnout was very obvious. Like, I need a break. So I went to the board and I said, either I need to quit or I need a break, right? And they were great in saying, let's talk about what a break looks like. And it was scary, right? For your founders, and as you know, as a founder of an organization, to say, like, I need a timeout. Like, I don't think anybody thought I was going to return. But it was amazing what 3 months did
Really?
I mean, I could go home at night, or even just like I was already home, right? And at the end of the day, like, I could still function. And it was amazing how much I realized I wasn't functioning by the end of the day, right? So as a single mom, I get home and my brain's kaput, right?
Right.
So just being able to shut the brain off for a little bit was super helpful. And now I'm like huge advocate of nonprofit leaders being able to take a break. In fact, not just nonprofit leaders, I see that in my staff. So we are instrumenting a sabbatical policy in our handbook for all staff members after 5 years. And because I can see the amount of burnout, or just the frustration of like, oh, I kind of don't care anymore, right? Amongst the other leadership of the staff that's been there for 7+ years.
Well, you know what's interesting, because I recall, this is probably before we started the organization, but companies would have that in place. And you don't hear about that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I do see some companies here in the region kind of picking up sabbatical policies. So when the board does push back, I can say, well, great, this company does one, this company is instituting one, this company, right? So it is kind of nice to have corporate groups that are leading the way. But I think as nonprofit leaders, we have so few really quality leaders out there right now.
Right.
And the
Very
average time frame for an executive director or CEO is 5 years. So if we could acknowledge that that's that time of burnout and say, what do we need to support them? And let's fund sabbaticals so that they can take a break and come back fully charged and ready to roll for another 3 or 4 years, right? That would be huge for organizations and for individuals.
Absolutely. I think you need to start this
There are actually foundations in both, I think, Tennessee and California that do nothing but fund sabbaticals in those areas, right? So St. Louis funders, there's an opportunity.
Any St. Louis funders that are listening to us, or others that are even across this country, we would love to hear about what are some other places doing, right?
Correct.
To help support the nonprofit leaders. And I think you have, I think you really have a solution to what even is within what's happening, even with the crazy within our country today.
You really turned the email off, huh?
Yes. I mean, we brought in an outside person to be an interim executive director. She was part-time, but she just kind of like held down the fort. And I would not check my email. I completely turned it off. Maybe I texted a few times with people about not work stuff, right? Like, how's your wife doing? Blah, blah, blah. You know, things like that. But like, intentionally, we had very strict parameters about what any of us could do. And they had issues where they were very close to calling me, but did not, because they're like, nope, we know that this is the boundary. And this is what we need to stop doing.
So when you came back, what was the difference?
I felt like lighter, and a breath of fresh air had kind of blown through my brain.
Betsy, tell us a little bit about your board. How many members do you have? How active are they, and how do they support you?
Yeah, so as you know, a good board is going to be key to an organization, but it also has its challenges. When I started Home Sweet Home, it was very much like friends and family, right? Kind of thing. But we knew that was not sustainable. That is not I did not want a Betsy board. So every time we bring on new board members every year, we try to expand that circle, and have done that very intentionally. Just like most places, we kind of do an assessment of where are the skills and resources that we have and where are we lacking. So when we do add new board members, we can try to fill in those gaps. But the goal is that we're bringing in a combination of people who are filling in gaps, but also know us enough and are dedicated, kind of already, that know the challenges and are ready to roll. Ideally, we're building them all in on a committee first, although that doesn't work very well for us, but that's ideally how we try to do it. And they have been instrumental in everything from making sure the staff is supported during COVID, right? So that we could continue to pay
Right.
people, to supporting me during my leave of absence, to just being our best advocates out there in the community.
So do they help you raise money?
I mean, in theory, yes. I am always a big fan, though, of if board members don't want to do it, I don't want them anywhere near it, right? So
Right.
what I really want from them is to open doors, make introductions, and be the best advocates.
Sure.
And then there are definitely some that want to go on asks and are very good at it, that we can train and have those conversations for just the right donors, because those are the peers of the
Right.
donors. And so I do need some of them to play that role.
Right.
But honestly, what we've found is the best is they can be good advocates out in the
Absolutely.
community. Yeah.
Well, and I think you really nailed it too, is that being able to be that connector, and you said, and that ambassador
Yeah.
out into the community.
I don't come from the corporate world, so I don't have those connections. I don't play the golf.
Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
who works at the companies, right? But they do. They're at those golf tournaments, those social events, those
Exactly.
corporate groups, and so they can make those connections. I can swoop in, give the tours, be charming, right? Make the
Right.
sale, but I don't. I just need somebody to make that introduction, and that costs nothing, right? Like I always say to the board members, like when we have our open house, like the least you can do is bring a gaggle of friends,
Right.
Because it doesn't cost anything. There's no ask. Like just get them to see what we're doing. It's totally free, and it's going to make you look really cool.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Betsy, I'm sure you have a number of success stories of families that have been impacted by your organization. Could you share one or two with us?
Yeah, the best involve food. So we have, when our movers deliver furniture, so often, this is where it gets really sweet, is they will get offered to sit down and eat with families.
Oh, wow.
Right, the breaking of bread, the
You're
like community
kidding. Oh,
support.
I love
So
that.
they have been offered everything from like glasses of milk on a hot summer day, which is super cute, to hot dogs. But the best story is that one time they're delivering furniture up like 3 flights of stairs. It is a couple or a family that only speaks Spanish. Mom, dad, several kids running around, totally chaotic. And the mom is cooking the whole time, and the last thing they bring up is a kitchen table. And she starts setting the table with all the stuff that they just unpacked. And she's saying, sit down, sit down. And again, they don't really speak English. We don't really speak Spanish.
Right.
And she has this like full-fledged meal that she wants them to sit down and eat. And they all eat together, right? And so that is where the magic is, of those moments where there's no barriers. Everybody's the
No.
same.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where it all comes together.
I
Yeah.
love that. And
Wow.
just that you said, it's breaking that bread together.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's beautiful.
We have a minute left till our next break. Talk about sustainability. How does that look in a furniture bank?
Yeah, so one of our missions is to keep as much usable furniture out of the landfill. So every year, by recycling furniture and giving it a home instead of families throwing it out, we're able to take almost 700 tons of furniture and keep it out of landfills.
Oh my God.
700 tons?
Yes, lots and lots of furniture.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's talk about environmentally friendly.
I
Yep.
know.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we have a lot more we need to ask about all
Okay.
this.
We are going to pause now for another break. We are Voices of Impact, and we will be right back.
Nonprofit leaders, do you want expert insights to grow your impact? Subscribe today to the KBL Impact Partners YouTube channel. You will receive powerful fundraising strategies, leadership tips, and exclusive content from Voices of Impact, the show that spotlights changemakers just like you. Don't miss an episode. Get the tools, inspiration, and the expert advice to raise more and do more for your mission. Subscribe now at youtube.com/@KBL Impact Partners and start transforming your nonprofit today. We are back with Voices of Impact and with our guest, Betsy Reznicek. So happy to have you.
Betsy, what accomplishments are you, I'll say, the most proud of?
Just making it through the day. That is the sarcastic answer. I think most of all, putting together a team, and when I say team, not just staff, team of volunteers, board members, staff, donors that all kind of think alike and have common values.
Right.
That's hard to
So getting the
do.
machine to run on all cylinders.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
That's
how,
an
I have a
accomplishment.
question for you of, in regard to, how do you measure your success?
Yeah, so how I would love to measure it as a furniture bank would to be able to do some kind of a long-term study about having furniture versus not having furniture, and does it keep somebody housed like on a long-term basis. Doing that is hard. It's
Yeah,
financially
yeah.
difficult, right? And we haven't figured out how to do that. Short term, we look at numbers served, we look at impact made, and we look at honestly like feelings, which grantors don't
Yeah.
like. Right, but we look at are we getting good feedback forms from donors? Are we getting good feedback forms from clients? Are we getting good feedback forms from staff, volunteer, everybody? And that's how I measure success is through that.
So
That's not on a grant application.
when do
right?
Right,
these,
right.
so these feedback forms, does this occur right after the delivery or?
For families, it occurs 6 weeks after delivery,
Okay.
right? But we're constantly doing feedback with
Okay.
board members, staff, volunteers,
Yeah.
donors, right? Like the whole kit and
Right.
caboodle.
Right. Well, and I was really curious about that because I know that, with really taking a look at the return on investment and being able to show, what that impact is.
Yeah. Ultimately, being able to see if they're housed, if having furniture keeps them housed longer, would be the biggest return on investment from a community point of view.
Absolutely.
Because I assume I am not an economic person, but the more that somebody is able to stay housed, that it's saving the money down the long road. We're spending less trying to solve other social challenges.
Right.
Well,
Somebody smarter than me has to
Yeah,
figure
well,
that out.
there's so many measurements related to stable housing.
That's right.
Steady employment.
Right.
Continued school attendance.
Correct. And being able to get some of that information is difficult. I also, this is where I get into the weird of like grant outcomes of how much of that is actually being impacted by the furniture. There's a whole host of resources
sure.
these families are getting,
Sure.
right? So it could be because they're getting also food from Operation Food Search, and
Right.
because
Right.
St. Patrick's Center gave them
Or
housing.
They're getting
And-
life coaching from a case manager.
Correct. And so,
Right.
like, I can't necessarily, yes, we ask those questions. We ask the before and after questions. And
Right.
does this make you feel more secure in your household? Blah, blah, blah. But, like, I can't actually tell somebody that, like, yes, I think that furniture, that couch has made
Right.
that difference in the kid, staying in school. Probably it has. But I feel like that long-term impact,
Yeah.
it would be a joy to measure that
I
because,
think
Well,
I think you're really right
Yeah.
on there.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
one part of a holistic
Correct.
solution
and that's
to
intentional.
helping
Yeah.
these families.
What's
Yeah.
that collective impact?
Correct.
Right? Of
Absolutely.
all coming together.
Yeah.
And partnering.
Yeah.
So how many organizations do you partner with? did you
So we
say?
partner with about 60 different organizations, and each year we serve about 1,200 families.
That's incredible.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely incredible.
So what skill or quality would you say has helped you in this job to really excel
The
and
joke
take
version
the
is
organization?
sarcasm and
That's
swear
right.
words.
No sarcasm, please.
But I think also being very, very transparent
Yeah.
and talking all the time about what we do and why. So many people miss the why. And I am always sharing my thought process, right? Like just yesterday at a board meeting, we celebrated a success and we shot off confetti cannons. But I explained that
At
the
the board
reason,
meeting?
yes,
At the board
yes,
meeting.
well, we were celebrating
So what was your
something. Well, I
success?
can't tell you that. That's so
Okay.
secret. But I even shared with them beforehand that this is one of my values, personal values, is to
Yeah.
celebrate wins. And because I put it on my values because I'm not very good at
Yeah.
it, right? So explaining all this, like my stuff thinks, oh, Betsy's talking again. But like telling all of that why
Right.
explains so much of the background.
That's right.
So that gets us all on the same page, right?
You're
Yeah.
bringing the mission to the board.
And you're bringing it alive.
And we're doing that at every morning huddle with
Which is
every time somebody's
so
testing a lamp and they
important.
don't understand why it's important to test the lamp or it doesn't feel like, right? Like you have these conversations
Right.
on every
So
single
key.
level.
It's-
So it just becomes ingrained to the whole organization.
I mean, just with you as a leader, what I mean, you just have done such a phenomenal job.
Thanks.
And with your board, I mean, just listening to you. And so, what would you attribute that to? Did you have a mentor? What do you
I'm making
attribute
it
that
up
to?
as I go, right? And I'm learning, and I'm making mistakes, and I'm talking about the mistakes, and I'm reading a lot, and you try to soak up as much as you can. Be very honest when you don't know something.
Yep.
That has actually
Yeah.
been one of my biggest gifts, and
Yeah.
I think so many people are scared to say that.
Right.
I don't know what to do, right? No, say
Yeah.
it, because
Yes.
somebody can help you.
Somebody
And
can help
at
you.
the same time, somebody else can learn from you saying you don't know, right? And it gives them permission to say,
Right.
I don't know how to do that, or I don't know that skill.
That's
You still have to
exactly.
learn it. You still have to take the initiative. But I think being able to say, I don't know, let's figure it out.
Right, being
is-
authentic
Yep.
and owning
Wow. So what are some common misconceptions about
Furniture banks?
Yeah.
Is that we'll take anything. And we absolutely won't. Right? So things have to be in good quality
Sure,
standards for us
sure.
to take. And we also don't take things like books or book bags or clothes. There are so many other agencies that do that
Yep.
and do that well. And so we have this huge list of resources. If somebody calls us and says, do you take this? And we don't, but
Right.
here's who does, right? We don't need to recreate the wheel. I don't like it when agencies try to do too much. We do furniture, household items, end of story.
Stay between the lanes.
Yep. And so that's
Right.
always very easy to explain, and there's plenty of people that do it.
Yeah.
So, what is your vision? Where do you see Home Sweet Home
Oh,
going?
interesting. So we just updated our mission, vision, and values last night at the board meeting, which is not why we were celebrating. But the vision is to own our own space in the next 3.5 years, to own our own 70,000 square foot building on the short term, to be able to have 10 trucks that can serve any of the area that needs it. But then also on a 10-year term of looking to have an organization or a building on the other side of the river to be able to serve Illinois as well.
So if
That's
there's a business
huge.
out there that might be considering donating a building, they need to contact you.
Absolutely.
And how would they reach you?
We have information on our website, which is homesweethomestl.org.
That's amazing. I love this vision.
Yes.
So it sounds like you'll be heading into a capital campaign.
It does, yes. Yes, that's the plan.
So do you have a year when you would like to see this happen?
I'm not supposed to talk about it, so don't tell anyone. We're starting a feasibility
This is
study.
top
I know.
secret.
Okay.
Top secret, starting a feasibility study in June, and then we'll see what that tells us to move forward.
That's really exciting.
It's so exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations to you.
Betsy, we were talking on one of our breaks, and I brought up this National Furniture Bank Association. What is it? What does it do? How does it help you, or does it help you? Or?
Yeah, so one of the things very early on that I learned the most from other furniture banks when we started is just call and ask questions. And so we are working to form its own 501c3 entity of an association of furniture banks around the United States that can do a number of things, but among them of being advocates at a national level to try to work for federal funding and federal recognition
Oh,
of
wow.
furniture
Okay.
poverty,
Wow.
but also to do things like resource share, share information about volunteering, how to, just kind of that kind of general information
Sure.
sharing, and to train each other and to visit other furniture banks. I always learn a lot when I visit other organizations, from what they have on their walls to how they treat their clients, and then we can bring that back. And so learning from each other, but really doing advocacy is the big point of it.
I love this.
Wow.
So is there a national website for
Not
the?
we are
yet?
literally in the information stages of like filing for the 501c3 and kind of coordinating. Internally, we're doing things like having workshops on like how to best volunteer practices, right?
Right.
Or how to do fundraising. So we have those internally, but we don't have a website yet just because we just now filed for a 501c3.
So if anyone is listening out there of our audience, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can just do a search for their state and to see.
There is an organization or a website that has that information, but they could contact me directly.
And how would they do that?
On our website, there's information, homesweethomestl.org.
So hopefully if you're out there, our audience, and you can check out Home Sweet Home, their website and what they're doing. So just one last here, few seconds. Where do you find inspiration?
Oh, outside in nature, but also walking around our warehouse and seeing it all come together.
The mission coming to life.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Betsy, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes,
This has been
thank
fun.
It's been a
you.
pleasure to hear from you and your organization and all the families that are benefiting
Yes.
from the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We'll be back with another show soon. Thank you all.
Are you a nonprofit leader awake at night worrying about your organization's future? You're not alone. Did you know a staggering 30% of nonprofits don't survive past 10 years? Often it's a simple reality. No money, no mission.
There is hope. At KBL Impact Partners, we understand the value of every dollar and every donor. Did you know 58% of donors are willing to give more if they know the impact of their donation?
That's why we've created Frame Up for Funding, our exclusive 12-week program designed to empower nonprofit leaders just like you. Learn how you can effectively communicate with donors and funders, demonstrating the lasting impact of their investments.
Visit kblimpactpartners.com today and schedule your complimentary consultation. Together, let's make your mission possible.
Thank you for joining us on today's enlightening episode of Voices of Impact. Remember, each one of you has a power to make a difference in this world.
With the KBL Impact Partners team of over 75 years of experience in the nonprofit and corporate sectors, we are with you on this journey. We stand ready as more than advisors. We are partners and mentors committed to your vision for a better tomorrow. It's about creating solutions that resonate with your unique mission with a dedication to personalized attention that brings out the very best in your organization.
And if you're ready to take your organization to the next level, visit kblimpactpartners.com and schedule your complimentary consultation. Ignite your impact, amplify your vision, and elevate your mission to lead the social movement.
This is Voices of Impact with KBL Impact Partners, where your mission fuels our dedication to social impact. Until next time, let's continue to be the inspiring voice of change in our communities and beyond.